everybody. Welcome back to our Advent series about expectation. I am Pastor Colie Bettivia, and here with me today is the Reverend Seth Carey, who is senior minister at First Congregational Church in Glen, Ellyn, Illinois, my home church. So I can say I knew Seth back when, all those years ago, I was a high school student when he started as a young pastor at our church. So welcome, Seth. Thank you for being with us. Seth, what story do you have to share with us?
Well, Colie, I'm going to share a story that I used to tell a lot back when Colie was a teenager and I was running the youth group because I thought it kind of made me cool and impressed the teenagers, as it were. So I'm going to tell you a story about something that happened to me in my junior year of high school, which I guess would make me 16 or 17 years old at the time. I took a lot of art classes back then, and I was in an art class one day where we were sculpting little statues out of soapstone, and we were doing that using X-Acto knives to carve the soapstone. And at the end of the class, I was cleaning off my knife in the sink when I suddenly felt a horrible pain in my left shoulder blade. And I sort of just gasped. And there was a classmate of mine named Tim standing right behind me. And I quickly, sort of used my deductive skills and put two and two together. And I said, "Tim, did you just stab me?" Knowing that he'd had a knife as well. And he said, "No." And as soon as he said no, he pulled the knife out of my back, which caused me more great pain. And I turned to the guy standing next to me, and I said, "Did Tim just stab me in the back?" And he says, "Yeah, he did. There sure is a lot of blood." So I'm standing there kind of, bleeding out like a stuck pig. And, went to the nurse's office and, they called my mother and, I went to the ER and, it wasn't too serious. It was deep, but not big. And an inch or so, I don't know, maybe an inch isn't that deep when it comes to getting stabbed, but, fortunately no vital organs in my, back. So, at least not that high up. So, they stitched me up and I was determined to go back to class after that because I really wanted to show people that I was a tough guy, oh, I got stabbed. Cool. And I came back to class, and but no one was impressed. In fact, they all thought I was an idiot for coming back to school. They're like, "You could have stayed home. Like, what did you come back to geometry class? Like, what are you doing?" Nonetheless, that did nothing to change my reputation of being, more smart than I was tough, which continues to haunt me to this day. And he claimed his sort of defense was that he had been joking and he intended to poke me with the blunt end of the knife, the handle, but he had accidentally plunged the blade into my back. No one really believed that. Except apparently for the school administration, I guess, they were okay with it. But yeah, oddly enough, I wasn't really angry about it. I don't know why. I mean, most people would. I was sort of aghast and shocked. Do you remember at work camp one year, we went and stayed at this church basement or whatever, and there was all these things written on the walls and the ceiling, and there was one that said, a true friend stabs you in the face." Does that ring any bells?
No, but I believe.
No, maybe you weren't there that year. Maybe you had already graduated, but all the kids thought that was funny. So I suppose you could take that away from it, right? But no, in all seriousness, I think there was a good lesson about forgiveness to be learned here. You'd be surprised at the number of people, especially in the immediate aftermath of this story, as I kind of would tell people about it, recognizing that I also had a knife in my hand at the time, they all said, well, I would have turned around and stabbed him in the stomach, or I would have turned around and cut his throat, like several people said this to me, like really shocking, violent kind of outbursts. And again, I wasn't really angry at the time. I was more concerned, I guess, for my own preservation more than anything else in the moment. And I was a little bummed about the shirt because it was a pretty cool t-shirt, that got ruined. So in any case, I forgave him pretty easily in this instance.
Well, it sounds like, despite the fact that he stabbed you in the back, that you really didn't feel threatened by it.
That's a really good observation. I didn't like turn around and think he was going to stab me again or anything, right? Like, and partly it was his manner, and he was sort of like, "Oh, I didn't," and he sort of backed off. He wasn't being like, intimidating about it or anything. I got mugged once, and I was pretty mad about that, because that really felt more like aggressive and kind of intentional, This, either it was an accident or the kid just had some issues, either kind of knowing what I know about him, I would say either explanation is a possibility. So I for me, intention means a lot, right? And it's everything really, as far as like, if you come after me in a way that's really ill intended, or threatening, like, I'm more inclined to kind of hold that against you, I think, than if someone accidentally does something to me, or even sort of thoughtlessly does something to me. I might be annoyed, but let's well, okay. The real challenge of forgiveness, I think, is when, someone, you really feel like someone doesn't deserve it, and they either come after you or kind of willingly do things that they know are going to be bad for you, but like they don't care, those are harder, and sometimes those take more time, but I'm a big believer in the power of forgiveness and sort of the necessity of for oneself to forgive people, but sometimes it can take a while.
Well, a very interesting story, Seth.
Death-defying, yes. Swashbuckling adventure.
Thanks for being here to share it with us.
Thanks for having me on, Colie.